This is Legally Speaking, episode 2. Today we want to explore a topic that might go the way you don't like, which means you might be a rapist as you're watching me. And we want to discuss that. We want to show you the chances that you already won, or maybe you are not. Beatrice, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Rape. What does it look like under the law? What's the provision of the law about it? What is the definition of the law about it? Am I a rapist? Are you a rapist?
Let me answer the last question first. I'm not a rapist.
Okay.
in any shape or form.
So most likely I'm also not a rapist.
So the thing is, I would like to go through 4 different laws that specify the crime of rape. Okay. Because in Nigerian constitution, it is well declared that a person cannot be guilty of a crime that is not stated, that is not in the statutes. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then what are the statutes that surround rape, that define rape, and then that punishes rape? So in this case, we have the Criminal Code.
The Criminal Code
applies to the southern Nigeria and the FCT, I think.
Okay.
Then we have the Penal Code, which applies to northern Nigeria. And then we have the Child Rights Act, which was passed in 2003 under the administration of...
Sex? I think sex is between adults. Where does Child Rights Act come into this thing?
Yeah, the reason why Child Rights Act come into the thing is that rape is more than between adults. Okay. Because, of course, sex is between adults. But when we talk about someone who is older sleeping with a child, even with or without our consent.
Child, like 5 years old or what?
A child. Okay, we will get to that.
Okay.
So now, someone who's sleeping with a child, just use your whatever you think a child is to you at the moment. So we are going to get to that.
Okay.
So now, someone sleeping with a child is automatically guilty of rape.
Okay.
Because that's the status of the law.
Of course, why will you be sleeping with a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old?
That's the statutes on it. And that's why we call it statutory rape. So automatically, you are guilty of rape if you are sleeping with a minor, whether with or without consent. So, first, I would like to go into the definitions of rape directly.
So we have the Penal Code, we have the Criminal Code, we have the Child Rights. Is there any other statute on rape?
Yeah, we also have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act.
Okay.
And I love that one more because, for
the people that are not legally inclined, act is an act of parliament. That is, it goes through, this is when someone from the house sponsors a bill and it goes to first reading, second reading, third reading, passing, vetting, and then the president just sign it. So it becomes an act. So maybe you have seen that there's an act of incorporation to it. It's an act of parliament that also institutional public corporation like NEPA, water corporation and SUCO. So an act is like that. So if you are seeing act somewhere, it's just a law. It's a body of document that not necessarily in the constitution, but was provided. So it's as valid as the content in the constitution. The constitution is just more because a lot of people go out there and say, I know my rights under the law. I know my constitutional rights. Some things are not your constitutional rights. They are just provisions within an act. You'll have heard of something like Bill of Rights, Bill of this, Bill of... All those bills later turn out to become an act. So that's what they call act. So you can look up the dictionary. Editor, please present the definition, the thorough definition of act into the screen so that people that are watching this can understand. That's what we mean. ACT, not act like your acting movie, like art, an act of parliament.
Or to simply put, an act, just think about it as laws made at the federal level.
I like that.
By members of the parliament.
Laws that are made at the federal level, at the center. I think most of them go to the lower chamber and the upper chamber.
Yes.
So they pass in lower and then
in the case of laws made within state assemblies, it is called laws. They are called laws. So you will hear Lagos State Child Rights, instead of Child Rights Act, Child Rights Law of 2007. So that's like Lagos State extended version of the Child Rights Act. Okay. So which is laws made within.
So now you were saying something about.
Yeah. Then I was talking about Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. I think many people will love that because that's an interesting part of the conversation too. But first, let's go into what applies. Here we are currently speaking to you from Oyo State, Nigeria.
Okay, good.
So since we are speaking from Oyo State, and you listened earlier, I mentioned that when we talk about the criminal code, it applies to southern Nigeria.
Exactly.
So now, since Oyo State is southern Nigeria, that means the criminal code applies to southern Nigeria.
So what you are saying is that in case someone committed the act of rape, right, that person will be penalized under the
criminal code
in
Oyo State.
Rather than penal code since
code.
it's in the north.
Yes.
So, but if I'm living somewhere in Kwara State, I'm from Kwara now. Is it about where I'm from, state of origin, or where I live?
Where the crime is committed.
So, okay. So if I travel to Kwara State and I commit, and someone, I don't want to commit a crime. So if someone lives in Kwara State and commit a crime in Kwara State, it's going to be adjudged under.
That's going to be judged under the penal code.
Penal code. Good. Makes sense.
So since that's the case, let's start with the criminal code.
Yes.
And the criminal code definition of rape is an unlawful carnal knowledge of a woman or a girl without her consent, or if the consent is obtained by force or by means of threat. Listen carefully.
If the consent is obtained by force
or by means of threat
or
intimidation of any kind
or
by fear of harm or by means of false and fraudulent representation as to the nature of the act.
Or by means of fraudulent representation as of the nature of the act.
Yes.
So if I say only the tip, is that what you are saying? If I say just only the tip,
this gets very complex. I love that because now that sounds like the that sounds like
that constitute fraudulent. I just want to know. If I say I just want to use only the tip,
that's not like a fraudulent representation of the act.
Okay.
But like when we take
it will not pay. I just want to feel just only the tip.
But I think. Of course, somebody can use that against you, possibly. But in case anybody is trying to use that against you, think about it deeply. False misrepresentation of the act. The act is a sexual act. Even the tip only, whatever the case may be, is a sexual act.
Okay.
So you guys are within confines of a sexual act in that situation.
Okay, so it's still a sexual act.
So it's still part of a sexual act.
But if I'm the opposing guy, I'm not going to argue that.
I know definitely. Like if a prosecutor would not want to let you know that.
Okay.
But at least in defense of yourself, in case you find yourself in a situation, I hope you don't, but in case you find yourself in a situation where you are assumed to have falsely misrepresented the act, in such a case.
It's only the tip, it's just, I just want to,
You should understand that it's still part of the act.
What if I say, I just want to check if you are still a virgin?
Then that's a false misrepresentation because you said you want to check. There are different ways you possibly. Of course, I'm against even checking entirely. Of course, but still, there are different ways you can check that does not have to include a sexual act necessarily.
Okay.
Of course, there are ways to check. Although
I want to check if you are still a virgin.
Using your body.
Your girlfriend have been saying that she's a virgin since forever. You have been dating her for 3 years. She has been claiming she's a virgin. She's a virgin. And you want to check. You want to check if she's a virgin. I just want to check.
I think that qualifies as false representation of the act. If it ends up leading to actual sex, as the case may be, as the case is.
We are checking. How do you expect me to check if she's a virgin?
Maybe you can check with a stick or something. I don't know.
So using a stick does not constitute rape? Is that what you are saying?
In some quarters, it might end up constituting, but at least that's much more arguable. Given that,
you sure? So if I penetrate someone with an iron or a rod or something, that does not constitute rape.
I think you'll be guilty of something different.
Like what? Sexual
assault.
Okay.
Sexually assaulting a woman. Because rape clearly, the definition of rape according to the criminal code does not mention something like that as what constitutes rape. It says unlawful carnal knowledge. Of course, carnal knowledge is in itself archaic. Who uses carnal knowledge as something?
So what does it mean to have the carnal? Can we pull up the definition of carnal knowledge? What does it mean? Carnal knowledge. Because this taking us to the gray area of this conversation. Because I'm just asking this question for all of you. You may say I'm being silly about it. It's not, legally speaking, it's a conversation that we would love for you to enjoy while we are sharing deep wisdom or deep knowledge of the law with you. Because they will say, there's nobody that's ignorant of the law. I think a lot of people are very, very ignorant of the law. In fact, if in the coming section of this video, we are going to learn a lot about that I learned from many of the people that work with me when I was building my house. Many of them were rapist at the least.
Carnal knowledge is basically sexual intercourse. Of course, this is dated and mainly found in law, in legal books at this point. But sexual intercourse. So I don't think using something like stick and stuff qualifies as sexual intercourse.
But it can qualify as sexual assault.
But it can qualify as that.
Which another thing entirely.
As an attack on.
So now, back to the
subject matter.
On rape.
Now, I stopped at false misrepresentation
of the act.
Let me go further. So, in the case of a married woman, continuation, by personating her husband.
So if you impersonate somebody's husband, you go and wear marks, you know, she was sleeping on the bed, you slept behind her, and then you slide the things from the back, and she thought it's daddy Michael or daddy, Deborah. And then
it happened to be you.
And it happened to you.
And you are not daddy Deborah.
And you are not daddy Deborah.
You are guilty of rape.
You are guilty of rape. And then, if she come up and say she doesn't know, even if you are, what's it called, a concubine, and, and she turned out to say she doesn't know, she's not aware that you are the one that was pretending to be the husband. She thought she's the husband that is on the bed, and then you slide it in. You are in soup.
Yeah. So it continues that such person is guilty of an offense which is called rape. And this is the thing about what I was talking about the Constitution earlier, given that the law has to be defined.
Okay.
And then punishment has to be
specified. So what's the punishment for this type of
punishment? Is that any person who commits the offense of rape is liable to imprisonment for life, with or without caning.
That's serious. Life imprisonment. I want to believe that if you are watching this, you see the reason why this topic is very, very important. Life imprisonment is not a joke.
You're not coming back.
Without coming back, is there something like parole in Nigeria?
I don't think so. I think it's the US thing, though. But I think
so. Now we are talking about something about child. What is this thing about child? Because I've heard different type of rape about, that has to do with children.
Statutory rape.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what will lead me to the Child Rights Act. Although before that, I would like to go into the Penal Code so that we can weigh them.
So what's up with the Penal Code
on rape? And when we go into the Penal Code, we see that So let me note this. Section 357 of the Criminal Code is what talks about rape, and 358 specifies the punishment. Then
357 talk about rape.
358 provides the prescribes the punishment,
which is life imprisonment.
359 talks about someone who attempts to rape.
Okay.
That's another thing that we should not miss. Okay. So if you attempted to rape somebody and then you were not successful,
what's the punishment?
There is you are going to be liable of imprisonment for 14 years.
14 years for attempted rape. You attempt to rape somebody. How do you qualify? What's the
so you were trying to rape somebody?
What's the definition of attempt?
Then maybe she attacked you, so the plan was foiled or something.
Wait,
like that.
I have not penetrated. How do you know that it's an attempt rape? What's just an assault?
There's something called mens rea in law, which is a guilty act that has to be established for something like this to be
there's autos reas.
Which is action, which is your action, and then why are you?
The mens rea is the what's it called? The guilty intent. And then the autos reas is the guilty action.
And that's what we differentiate. Let's say two couples that are just participating in like kinky kind of sex, like extreme kind of sex, and that's what we differentiate them from from someone who is trying to violently rape somebody. That's what we differentiate.
So now let me be clear about something here. How do you know I'm attempting to rape? Because rape in itself constitutes there must be a penetration. There must be an insertion. How do I know that I'm attempting to rape? How do you establish my mens rea?
I think things like that will be much harder to establish, of course, but there are cases where someone
unless I'm pleading guilty for being attempting
because let's say
I don't know how do you speak to my intent. Maybe we are just fighting over money or whatever.
Well, there are some kind of position where you don't want to find yourself when you are fighting over money with a woman.
Exactly.
Because if you are naked
with your trousers down
and you are fighting over money with a woman,
what are you trying to do there? Okay, I like that. So now let's dive in. There's something about child I heard that it's, they call it statutory rape. So what's that?
But let me go into that one. We go into Child Rights Act. But I think we better segue into that from the penal code,
Code.
because the penal code is far more interesting when it comes
So
to
what
rape
does the penal code have to
than
say?
the criminal code, and it applies to northern Nigeria.
Okay,
So
so
the penal code-
that's those people that do flogging. They include flogging in their own.
The penal code, rape is defined as a man is said to commit rape.
Which part of the penal code is that?
Section 22 of the penal code.
Okay.
A man is said to commit rape who, save in the case referred to in subsection 2. Now you note with me when we get to subsection 2.
Yeah.
Has sexual intercourse with a woman in any of the following circumstances.
Okay.
Against her will,
Against her will,
without her consent,
without her consent,
putting her in fear of death or of hurt.
you put her in fear of death. So if you carry gun, carry responsibility, carry cutlass, you are about to rape somebody.
So then, with her consent,
With her consent.
when the man knows that he is not her husband,
Oh, with her consent when the man knows that what?
when the man that is trying to rape knows that he is not her husband, and that her consent is given because she believes that he is another man whom she is or believes herself to be lawfully married.
Okay, so if you pretend somebody's husband, and then
Yeah. So in such situation,
they are more precise with
they are more precise with
the
it.
penal code. I
So
like this.
if the woman believes in her mind that she's lawfully married to a man, and then you pretend to be that man, and then you sleep with her, you are guilty of rape.
Okay.
Even with her consent.
So
I remember some Yoruba movies you used to watch where men used to, where people used to take
Somebody's face.
I don't know how the law intends to deal with that, but it's very funny.
So now next.
So now, then with or without her consent, when she is under 14 years of age.
So the penal code is precise even with the age thing.
So any woman that is more than 14 and somebody is
So if a 15 years old gives her consent,
you are consent,
you are not guilty
under
under
the penal code. You are not guilty of
But
rape.
what about under the
Criminal code,
Did they
the
specify
same
age?
is not specified.
The age is not
The
specified.
age is not specified.
Good.
So that's the. I'm just trying to note the differences now. Can you see where we are?
So under
going?
the criminal code, you are not guilty. Under the penal code,
You are guilty.
You are
if
guilty
it's a
if
15-year-old, 14 above 14 that gives consent.
good.
So now to the subsection 2 that I told you to save earlier, that except in that case. Now, sexual intercourse by a man with his own wife is not rape. This is one of the problems of criminal code. Criminal code does not specify that a woman cannot be raped in a marriage. Or should I say this is the problem of penal code? Depends on how you view it. If you think a woman can be raped within a marriage,
Which is bollocks at best.
you think a woman can be raped within a marriage,
I totally believe. I will not support that.
you will think that that's a problem with penal code. But if you believe that no woman can be raped within a marriage because maybe you believe that her consent when she got married is
Although at the same
consent.
time, I'm not of the type that husbands should be forcing themselves on their wife. You know?
On their wives. So I think
I don't think, but I don't think it should lead to anything like as a criminal offense. It shouldn't.
Yeah, I
become
don't
a
think
criminal.
so too.
I think the thing is that if you so-called rape your wife doesn't want to sleep with you anymore, and she believes that you rape her. The best is that she fight for divorce, and then because if she no longer want to sleep with you, who else should be sleeping with you? In as much that even every other girls out there is already labeled as almost half rape
and
already.
even most laws, withdrawal of like conjugal activities enough ground for divorce. So I think
for the man to, instead of trying to rape their wife, it's better you fight for divorce and look for another wife.
Exactly. So that's it. Then they even further to see how specific they are. So sexual intercourse by a man with his own wife is not rape if she has attained puberty.
Okay.
So if she has not attained puberty by the time when she's being raped,
does that mean you can actually marry a woman under poverty?
That's what this is suggesting. And when you look at where this law is applied, you will realize that people are marrying under 16, under like 14 years old are getting married.
Okay.
15 years old are getting married. So you will see,
by puberty, I mean that means they are technically referring to the 14 years old.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
So it will be interpreted as 14 years, like the girl is not 14 and you are sleeping with her. So what's your... So then the final part, mere penetration is sufficient to constitute the sexual intercourse. So the tip or whatever, even if it's the rape, even if it's part of the sexual act. So if you are raping somebody, without her consent and you are doing that, you are still guilty of rape under this because it's specific. Like mere penetration is enough. So that's the interesting part. But I like the part where we have the issue of child, because we were discussing statutory rape and we were trying to talk about it, and we realized that now we can see that it's not that clear
under the criminal code.
Differentiated under criminal code and penal code.
The penal code is kind of pretty clear already. 14 years old. 14 years old. Anything less than 14 years old is rape. Exactly. Statutory rape. By statute, the word statute we established the other time. Remember to put this on. Statute is the law. It's whatever law. Yeah. So statutory rape means a rape that not necessarily rape, but the law says it is rape.
So now that's what will lead us to the Child Rights Act. Now, the Child Rights Act of 2003, it is more direct about when it comes to child. And it says, the Section 31 of the Child Rights Act says, no person shall have sexual intercourse with a child. Now, you might want to ask, how do we identify who a child is?
Did they specify?
Then, in Section 277 of that same Child Rights Act, it is explained that a child means a person under the age of 18 years. So
technically, if you sleep with somebody that is less than 18, you will not be guilty under the penal code.
But you are still going to be.
I'm going somewhere. So she is less than 18, but what's it called? Less than 18, but higher than 14. You'll not be guilty under the penal code.
Yes.
But if she's less than 14 altogether, you'll be guilty both under penal code and the Child Rights Act. What about under the criminal code? There are no specification for
criminal code does not specify on statutory rape. Also, from what we read. So that is why the Child Rights Act is very important. So now the funny thing though that you should note.
So what did the Child Rights Act have to say about rape?
Okay, let me read that. But maybe I should note this for people publicly about Child Rights Act. Child Rights Act has not been assented by every state in Nigeria. There are a few states left. And it will surprise you that many northern states started assenting this like last year, 2 years ago. This law has been in place since 2003. And then we are having states in Nigeria that just started assenting this last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, which will surprise, I know, somebody that is living in the southern part of Nigeria. We feel like, how? But now that's actually the case. And then I will surprise you that there are 3 states in Nigeria that have not assented this. So if you are trying to prosecute cases of statutory rape of a child of someone who sleeps with a child under 18 years, but the person is above 14, you are going to struggle because states like Adamawa, Bauchi, and Gombe states have not assented this.
So that by assenting means that they have not passed it into law. I think the House have actually reviewed it, but the governor has not assented yet.
So you can't use that to prosecute such person in a court in.
So for the people that don't understand what's going on, if there's an act at the federal level, every state in Nigeria have to incorporate it. So each state of assembly have to read it and pass it into law within that state.
And the governor must assent.
So law is not just made at federal and then forced on everybody's throat. You have to take it down the rabbit hole. Each state have to accept it.
So what do we have in the Child Rights Act? Section 31 of the Child Rights Act. No person shall have sexual intercourse with a child. A person who contravenes the provision of subsection 1, which is no person shall have sexual intercourse with a child, commits an offense of rape and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for life.
So life imprisonment for sleeping with a child. Any year under 18.
So this overrides the.
This is one of the things I'm so scared of, because many of the people that I've seen, many of the young people that I've seen around, they don't care. They say the child is already 16 and she have breast and yash,
Yeah, exactly. I hear that a lot. Like they will just say.
Especially when I was building my house, like, a lot of people that come around to to do the furniture work, do this one work, they don't seem to care. They like 16, she's mature enough. She's 17, she's mature. Why?
Like these girls want it too and stuff like that. Those kind of language.
Do we think if we start punishing this offense, do we think we have a chance? Do we think we can lock people up that much?
I feel
because if in the trenches, let me put it that way, in the trenches, this seems like almost 90% of men are rapists already.
I swear to God, like the numbers will shock you that many people don't even care.
Because many girls that still come around them and we don't try to interact with them because they are less than 18. Oftentimes we have found one elderly person trying to toast them, trying to sleep with them and quote, even way other persons like,
and you'll be like, Baba,
already toasting them and trying to give them money, and they are even consenting. It's although the law is saying they don't have consent, but they are consenting to it.
So a lot of people will be guilty of statutory rape.
So
if this is
now the question I'm asking is that if that is the case, if the trenches is full of quote unquote unknown rapists like that, do you think we can ever get any justice by making life in prison? Do you think it's realistic?
I feel like Nigeria is not serious about getting justice about when it comes to statutory rape that much. Unless someone is being there's been someone is being put under the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Nigeria does not give the vibe of a country that is serious about these laws. And this is not the only law in Nigerian law that, I hate to say this, we do not take seriously. We are not seriously in trying to implement. Because if you are trying to implement it, do you think we are going to be comfortable? Our prisons will be full of men who will be in prison for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Several men will be in prison for the rest. Are we serious that that's what we want to do next? That's what we want to carry out.
Exactly.
So I do think that there should be like distinctions for these things. Not like I'm trying to justify what's the name?
Statutory rape or child rape.
What I'm just saying is that if really
somebody that raped a 3-year-old child, because I've heard stupid news like that before. It's different from somebody that is living with a 16-year-old child that is collecting money.
Exactly.
The girl is even collecting money.
Of course, the girl does not have consent. I agree with that.
But she has consent to collect money.
But now let us try to think about it in the sense of, okay, can we reduce the sentence for this so that this person will face the wrath of justice and will not do it again? Because in this case now, how will you tell somebody that is there is a rise of activist judicial activists?
Sure.
That would be like, are you telling me that I should send this promising young man
to life in prison
because he raped a 17-year-old girl that will turn 18,
collected money
that will turn 18 next month
in 3 months,
that will turn 18 in 3 months and collected money from him because they are in a supposed relationship of some sort? So, and
then the funny part is that this law, I think there's one part that said that even there's no provision for if she lied about her age.
Yeah, I think we will get to. Maybe we should continue going. Maybe we should continue going.
I'm interested in that because many girls, even they themselves, will tell you that they are 19, 21. And then this man will even give them money. They will give their so-called content, and then but this law doesn't seem to provide anything for.
Let's go through it so we will see how extreme this might be to an extent. Okay. So now this is saying that you are liable on conviction to imprisonment for life. Mm-hmm. Where a person is charged with an offense under this section, it is immaterial that, note this.
Immaterial. It does not matter. We don't care.
We don't give a damn.
We don't give a damn
about the following. Mm-hmm. That the offender believe the person to be of or above the age of 18 years. So even if you get lied to you that she's 19 or she's 20.
All those girls, all those 16 years old that are full everywhere these days.
I know girls that will do this. I know girls that like lying about their age just because so that they can maybe get access to clubs or everything. Like that. Sure. So people do this. Now a guy that does not know will sleep with such a girl and then now is guilty of is a rapist.
The rapist.
Definitely a rapist. Now you will see how problematic this can be. Okay. Now we just said that the person there's no immaterial that you don't
immaterial that she told you she's above 18.
Now the offender believed the sexual intercourse was with the consent of the child. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Then it is continued that a person who sexually abuses or sexually exploits a child in manner not already mentioned commits an offense. Okay, no, that's something different. So sexual exploit. We are not going to
sexual exploit. Yeah.
So now let's stop there. I mentioned the fourth law, which is Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act. This is a very, very interesting one because the very first section of this act says a person commits the offense of rape. Like that's the opening. A person commits the offense of rape if he or she intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus or mouth of another person with any other part.
So now, before I used to think rape is only for what's it called? Women. But now with
that's an interesting part we are supposed to discuss.
But with this, it seems like a guy too can show up and say
he was raped.
He was raped. But there's no penetration. How do you penetrate a guy mouth as a woman?
I think she can. Okay, but because it says that it has to be with another part of her body. So I don't think a woman can. I think it has to be,
because this law is bullock at its face value. It seems it's only catering for women, and to me it seems like it's written by some radical feminists somewhere.
The funniest part is that 99% of it was written by men. So I don't know what men were thinking of, like thinking that only women can be raped. Or I don't know, whatever kind of whatever.
Now read that part again. Let's try to synthesize the information.
So
a person said
so now this violence against persons seems to kind of cater for men a little bit, but I think it's more. It's more of a case where a man rapes another man, not necessarily where a woman rapes a man.
Yeah.
So it says a person commits the offense of rape if he or she is intentionally penetrates the vagina,
which is for women,
or mouth of another person.
A man has to be, or mouth. So it's only remain anus and mouth for a guy.
With any other part of his or her body.
With any other
or anything else. Okay, so a woman can penetrate a guy with a dildo or something like that.
Okay, or anything else. Yeah. So now this one cater for the idea that I was talking about, that if you use something else to penetrate somebody.
So if you use stick or something, you are still going to be good. So now the thing I like about this though is the fact that it is when you want to start giving credit to this, you have to realize that this law was made in 2015.
Okay, it's my latest.
The other ones that we are doing, the closest one is 2003. So this one is more recent.
Okay,
2015. I think that's why it includes instances like this, because raping men was not popular before, and in recent time it has actually increased. Of course, it's still low in countries like Nigeria, but there are countries where men are being raped ridiculously at ridiculous rate. I want to read out something though that might be the reason why such is the case. Okay. There is a popular Latin maxim that ad ea quae frequentius accident jura adaptantur, which is basically the law is applied to cases, mostly to cases that are frequent, that happen frequently.
Okay.
So that might be the reason why the law catered in time past, especially to women only when it came to rape, because when we are having case of 99.99% women being raped. So maybe that's why such principle is the case, because the law caters to such cases in most instances.
Okay, let's move on with
so now so now if the other person does not consent to the penetration, or the consent is obtained by force or means of threat or intimidation of any kind, or by fear of harm, or by means of force, don't forget this, force and fraudulent misrepresentation as to the nature of the
just
act,
like the other ones,
or the use of any substance or addictive capable of taking away the will of such person.
Okay, so when the person is drugged, this one is more.
So that's why it's more recent. That's why I like it more, because it shows recency than, because people are drugging people and then raping them.
Yeah.
So you have taken away the will of such a person,
or the consent of that such person.
So this is more specific of such cases, and then so that case cannot be argued out with technicality like it used to be in time past. So now this is, because can say we both decided to use this drug and stuff like that, but we both decided to use the drug, but you could still rape her. You could still have I don't know. But then a person. Okay, let me continue. In case of a married person, by impersonating his or her spouse, we have gone through that. A person convicted of an offense under subsection 1 of this section, which is this rape, is liable to imprisonment for life. Now, this is where things start getting complicated. Except where the offender is less than 14 years of age. Okay, for this one, is 14. So, in the case where the offender is less than 14 years of age, the offender is liable to a maximum of 14 years imprisonment. Okay, the offender in this case, not the person being raped, not the victim. Now, if we are so if the offender is less than 14 years old, they won't be sentenced to a life imprisonment. They will not be sentenced. They will be sentenced to 14 years imprisonment. Okay, but now here's the problem I'm having. What if my child is 14, the victim, the victim of it, and your child is 14? It's not good to be on either side of such, but let's continue. So now, if your male child is 14 sleep with my daughter that is 14,
or so. You know she doesn't have consent.
Statutory.
What happened? Will your child go for 14 years?
That's what the law is stating. That's the funniest part.
Wait. My child doesn't have consent. You sleep with your child that doesn't have consent.
I think that's
Consent cancel consent. Now what's happen now? No consent cancel no consent. What happened?
I think that should be the case. I know that most cases, the law will, the judge will be rational about it and then decide that no.
I think that's what people call is it procedural law or something like that?
It is substantive justice.
Law, justice, good.
So now we will, in such situation, we will be like, okay, let's strike this kind of case. You guys are just saying nonsense. But the funny thing is that when you're under the spotlight, like I'm repeating, and some people are motivated against you, including the judge, the law does not protect your child in this situation.
So if
because this is 14 to 14, minor rape. That's what this is. There are many other countries that have specific laws as to these things. They are called Romeo and Juliet laws, different kind of laws like that, which protect children from being prosecuted for statutory rape.
Okay.
But now this is clearly stating that a 14-year-old child can rape.
Can be considered as an offender.
Even as a quote, let me quote this. A 14-year-old child can happen to rape a 17-year-old. A 17-year-old. That's what this is. Going with this. Can rape a 17-year-old, and then the 14-year-old guy will go to jail for 14 years, and then the girl will be seen as a victim, or what are we saying?
I don't understand.
Make it make sense. That's my own issue with this. How does this make any sense?
Any rational sense?
Anybody. So these are both kids now. These two of them do not have.
So I don't understand. If you have any idea of how this kind of or you have any case or in point or a reference, you can drop it in the comment section, because I honestly don't understand. I'm really
interested in how this kind of, but I feel like people can misuse this easily.
Because I know what I would do. If your 14-year-old son sleep with my 14-year-old daughter, that's what I would do. I would proceed to the extent of the law, full extent of the law, to be precise.
It's very funny, and that's the law, and that's the funniest part. And formal justice requires that judges will apply this law to the letter.
Okay.
Thank God for recent modern day judicial activism that think through things and are like, no, this we can't. The law is harsh in this on this, and we can't implement this and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think it's more recent stuff. Substantive justice.
I be 14. You be 14. Wait till be say we.
Because this is not equitable
because
at all.
You are claiming that the girl doesn't have consent.
Exactly. We can agree.
Shame himself get consent.
And clearly, if so that somebody will not try to start gaslighting us here that it's rape, it can be a girl raping the guy. No, this is not the case. This is clearly penetration. Nobody penetrates. No, we are not going through that rabbit hole. Who penetrates in usual sex? It's the guy. So nobody should try to start conflating these things.
Exactly.
This is really a case that should.
So my in one word, your child have penetrated my child,
and so as such a rapist. Or what are we saying? And then this thing goes further than this. And this is the part where I don't really like.
So what else?
This is why I don't think rape should be seen as equal to rape. Maybe we should, the way we treat when we come to murder.
We have 4th degree murder.
There is misdemeanor. There is
involuntary manslaughter.
There is murder, different kind of names for different kind of murder.
1st degree, 2nd degree.
In US, they have 1st degree, 2nd degree, and stuff. So this, I think something like that should be applied to rape too. Because now, listen to this part. The court shall also award appropriate. Okay, sorry. Let me see. In the case of a rape by a group of persons, the offenders are liable jointly to a minimum of 20 years imprisonment without an option of fine. Then the court shall also award appropriate compensation to the victim as it may deem it fit in the circumstance. But here is where I want you to pay attention to. A register for convicted sexual offenders shall be maintained and accessible to the public. So this 15-year-old, 14-year-old guy we are talking about is going to have his name on a sex offender list. Does that make any sense?
That's cringy.
From that age.
That's
so he's going to spend the next 14 years of his life in prison. 14 plus 14, we have 28. By the time he steps out of prison at 28 years old,
he will still be a publicly labeled sex offender.
So if he's going to move to a new place, he's going to have to let everybody know that I'm a sex offender. I have to register as a sex offender. So a sex offender will low has entered the town.
This is really
criminal.
stringy, you know.
These are things
and I
that
think
should
that
be
there are things that should be done to this, you know. I think there are modifications. If you have opinions on this subject, you know, if you have cases in point, you can drop it in the comment section. This is Legally Speaking, and we have been talking about rape. I think for a recap, what are some of the things that we have talked about today?
We have discussed rape as defined in the
Constitution,
as defined in the criminal code. As defined in the penal code.
Oh, so rape is not defined in the Constitution. Yeah, we cleared that out. It's not all laws that you find in the Constitution. For all of you that used to shout, you know, I know my constitutional rights. So, but in this case, we have 4 statutes that, you know, point us to what rape can mean. It's in the penal code, the criminal code, the Child Rights Act, and
the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act.
So we are going to link in the description for you to check it out, to check all those laws, you know, where you can download those documents and check out the context and read this for yourself. And then primarily we have talked about different case points, things that can come up if you sleep with a girl that is younger than 18, you are liable to this. I think that's under
under the Child Rights Act. And then this Violence Against Persons Act corroborates it and even makes it expansive. And what I want you to note is that you are not going to be tried by, if you are guilty of this, if you are a suspect in a case of rape, the prosecutor will say you are guilty under this one, under section 292 of the criminal code. Section these
you cannot cherry pick what he's saying, that you cannot cherry pick the one they should try you with.
So they are going to try you as it applies to the land.
So even if they cancel everything else, let's say the penal code does not apply in your state, let's say criminal code does not give account for this situation, they will check you under Child Rights Act.
As long as your state has accepted Child Rights Act.
And
even if your state has Violence Against
Persons Act. So different checkings are going to be done across those spectrum, those 4 documents.
So you'll be convicted based on this.
So if you have any solution to our puzzle, which is if my child is 14, your child is 14, and both of them sleep with each other, who is going to jail? The guy or the girl?
Joro cancel
Joro. So we will see you next week on Legally Speaking. For now, my name is Elon Jobs, and this is
Bill Tracy.
ESQ. Exactly. He's a law student at the University of Ibadan. So we'll see you in the next episode. Remain legally educated.